Hey everyone, welcome to the Coast to Coast podcast. I am joined by the Commissioner, aka Mr. Maverick. Episode 12. Welcome.
We're at the 12 pack.
12 pack, 2nd of March. It's funny looking back on last week. I don't know if we would predict we are this fast, but we're here. And I really wanted to get together with you today, even though a lot going on in the world. Just to document this, to be honest. It's documented. One day we'll look back. This is where we are. 2 weeks into March. And we'll start it off with, I think, talking about how the coronavirus has spread. San Jose Sharks already no fans in their next games.
And the Columbus Blue Jackets as well. You got to think Anaheim and LA are right behind.
Right behind.
Like right behind, if not when we're done this podcast even maybe.
Well, to be honest, we're starting this podcast right when something crucial in the world is happening. Might not be the best time to be doing it, but Donald Trump, I believe, started talking 5 minutes ago. Who knows what he's saying, so...
Oh no,
right?
I don't really follow. I'm very ignorant when it comes to that. I'm not the one to get in a political discussion because I'll only make myself look like an idiot. Just because I am uneducated, I don't know. It's stupid on me. I really should know more, but I don't know,
it's to your benefit of long term probably to get a little, at least dabble and understand some of the decisions of multiple leaders around the world. Because as we're seeing right now, the NHL is at the mercy of all of this, all the world leaders and their decisions. So,
well, it's just a sport, right?
At the end
Let's
of the
be
day.
real. I mean, hockey we love, and in our lives, it's very, very important at the top of the list. But in the grand scheme of things, of reality, it's really far down there. I mean, the money in the economy is more important than the actual sport or the games themselves or the fans.
Yep.
So, and that's what's terrifying to me is it's not just fans won't be going to the games or teams might not be able to travel or we might not have playoffs. It's people may or may not be paid depending on technicalities to work at the arenas, all the concessions, the people in the parking, everybody that works in the building, the people who clean up afterwards, the people who clean up beforehand, all those people are getting paid. If those people don't get their paychecks, they're not putting that money back in for groceries, for all these other things. They're just going to be paying their rent and their bare essentials. And you got this craze
they have
going
to find
around
a way
with
to keep it going. And everything's going to be shifting to, I think, a lot of online, obviously, because that's if you're under quarantine, you're locked up for 14 days, 17 days. But
I mean, maybe this is an opportunity, not to jump out here, but maybe this is an opportunity for these Uber Eats and stuff to make money. But what liability concerns do you have?
That's always interesting.
And then all of a sudden you deliver this virus from a restaurant or something like.
I would assume almost all liability policies and insurance exclude epidemic or pandemic, or I think it was officially named a pandemic today. I keep mixing up the two words.
Yeah.
Whatever. The more severe one, that's what we're dealing with. So which is first time in our lifetime we're dealing with.
First time in many people who are lifetime.
Yep.
Like what would be I don't know the answer to this. What would be the last time something this major has happened, this widespread? I'm sure there's worse instances in
I've heard comparisons
parts of the world
towards 9/11 recently. That's probably the most impactful
thing. Okay.
Globally, things are just going to be different after this.
I mean, that's more of a, I would say, North America type thing, but
I don't know though.
I mean, it is worldwide.
It did impact
the impact,
of the way it ripples out across the globe. It's just gonna
and the changes of all the flying and stuff like that, restrictions, whatever.
Maybe finally, we'll clean up our food sanitary.
Yeah, I mean, it's scary, and I mean, let's be real, we don't really know what we're talking about when it
Not at
comes to
all.
the actual disease.
Let
So I
that be
mean, we're
real.
just
We don't know.
we don't. We can sit here and talk about it, but we're just as uneducated as the majority of us. And
Yep.
like, just try and stay healthy. Try and take care of your parents if
Just
you have some older parents, and hope that it doesn't really get to the people that you love. Not that it's any worse or better, but hopefully it doesn't get to any more people than it has to. But like, do what you can to take care of yourself and your loved ones, because like that's all you really
just live in the moment and remember the things. There's tons of things out there to be grateful for. So I think that's important too. So
yeah, and like people can't live in fear. I mean, fear will just turn into stress and health issues, which will lead to more people going to ERs and stuff, which are already full and impact that. And it's just stay calm, enjoy life, but do it safely.
Exactly, and you got to just trust in your fellow human, because most people, everyone's good out there. Not everyone, but
there are bad people out there, and hopefully everyone can stay as far away from those people as possible, and hopefully people aren't being stupid about it. Like I don't remember where I heard this, but it was somewhere on the radio or the podcast, but they're kind of joking as like, who was going to be the first YouTuber or vlogger to like go and
don't even give people ideas of that though. They shouldn't be repeating that shit.
Someone's gonna do it. Some dumbass somewhere is gonna do it.
We should probably shame them.
Like I don't know. I hope nobody does. I hope I'm wrong with that. But like, it seems like people will go to any lengths for anything these days, even to just get their video shown online or something with a couple 100,000 likes or something. But I don't know. But what the actual impact is pretty crazy to think from NHL perspective or sports perspective, I should say, because they're all kind of in the same bubble. Doesn't really. Yeah. It's not divided by sport, but
it's the first time ever that they all released a joint statement together, the four major sports. So that was,
which makes sense. You can't act differently than the other. You have to all act the same, especially because half of them share the same home stadium.
Home stadiums, owners in a lot of cases.
Owners, true. So I don't know. I hope the playoffs continue. Like I hope worst case scenario, it's just playoffs with no fans because
I'm hoping as long as a player doesn't get sick.
Yes,
but maybe that team might just be out.
But what happens?
Dude, I think more than anything, people need sports right now too, just to keep their attention on something positive. Sports are positive. People love sports.
And that's what I was going to say is that like if you take the playoffs away, if you're just like, no, we can't do this, how many more people are going to be like, okay, this is so severe that the thing I love isn't even happening. Okay, now I'm just going to be in fear. Like that would be a lot of, it's a release for people.
It's a distraction, yeah.
Exactly. So like if you don't have that, you take that away, then the focus solely goes in on the negative or the bad. And I think that could be really bad for morale and, positivity and, faith and stuff like that. But
totally. I 100% agree.
It's a crazy thing. It's hard to get your head wrapped around it because of how severe, how major it is now, and the fact that it seems like we're only chasing it. Seems like we're, a week behind it. And from what it sounds like is it's basically a 2-week, layover. But if we're a week behind it, we're already a couple days behind trying to keep it at its minimum, right?
Yep. So
it's pretty scary.
It is scary.
What can you do? But it should be interesting and like it'll be crazy.
Life's always interesting.
Quiet and like I can't imagine. Like I'm gonna.
You never watched the Baltimore Orioles baseball game then, eh?
Well, there's no ban for fans there. They just don't show up.
No, they actually the one time when they were having the riots there, they closed it.
Oh right, I heard about that.
That was a couple years ago, not too many years ago. But there was like the commentator did an entire inning like he was a golf announcer, just like the low voice and here comes the putt.
Quiet.
Yeah, the very quiet.
Pitch. In and outside. I think I remember that now that you say that.
Yeah. So I don't know. I just hope they keep playing because that's really what life's about. No, just
it'll be interesting though because like. Does that take away home ice advantage?
I think
Or does that make it more of a deal because it takes away all the other shit and it's just that you're sleeping in your home bed?
Well, something that I proposed, and I think you like the idea of, if it ever came down to it, finding there's multiple cities, smaller cities like this that have like a hockey complex, to have like 6 pads, so you can have practice pads, you have game pads. It's kind of the easiest way I could say of it.
The only problem with that is it would be hard to televise it because you can't get your cameras and stuff in there. That's the only thing.
But can't.
And lighting and stuff like that.
I guess.
You'd have to
be bad angles. It'd be pretty bad angles.
You'd have to basically retrofit that whole entire complex with lighting and TV gear and like seats for those recorders.
And it has to be under 1,000 people, probably.
Yeah, maybe, right? So like, I don't know. I think that it's just they've got everything set up. I think it's just going to be. But I'm more concerned about the travel aspect. Like, what happens if people can't travel, from Canada to the States or interstate, or you can't travel from Western. If you travel Western states or Canada, you have to go in a 2-week quarantine or stuff like that. Like, who knows, right? Who knows where they're going to go, what the next step is. So
borders are being drawn, right?
Clearly, the Western teams are setting the precedent. I mean, Columbus, I know, is more central, but Columbus has also always been one of the more forward-thinking organizations.
Okay.
I want to say they were one, if not the first organization to sign a European GM.
Okay.
What's his name again?
I don't know.
Can't remember his name. I should know the name off the top of my head, but I can't remember. But he's Finnish. And I want to say that Columbus was also the first team to sign a female in their organization. And I also want to say that they were one of the first teams to do like a lot of like overseas work and stuff like that. Like I've heard, I want to say Bob McKenzie talk about them before being one of the most forward thinking kind of,
Yeah.
What's the other term I'm thinking?
Jarmo Kekalainen.
Yes, Jarmo Kekalainen. That's it.
Kekalainen.
Yeah,
heard that
Jarmo
name.
Kekalainen. Yeah. And he's smart. He's very good. But yeah, so that I think that I actually, if you had to have me pick one of the first non-Pacific teams, I probably would have picked Columbus as one of the first teams, central-ish teams, mainland teams to
do it.
To do it, yeah. I probably would have put them in my top 5. I think one of the last ones will do it will be the Rangers or Toronto.
Vancouver will be really
Montreal.
Soon.
Yeah. Probably be Vancouver. Like in terms of Canada, it'll probably be Vancouver.
Yep.
And
Vancouver will be the first Canadian team. Unless the owners here, though, but I think it's going to be provincial mandated.
I think it will be. I think it's above sports. Like, to me, I'm just defeating to the point that it's above sports, and sports will just follow the direction they're given.
Yep.
And we're along for the ride.
Yep. So smarter people are up there than us to handle this situation. So let's hope.
Smarter and more powerful.
Yep.
But it'll be Vancouver probably first, and then probably within a couple couple weeks, it will be Edmonton and Calgary. I honestly don't think Winnipeg will have a ban. Nobody goes to Winnipeg, and it's too cold.
Edmonton and Calgary are pretty isolated places, though. So
that's true. I would also be interested to know, because a lot of viruses are only susceptible within certain temperatures.
Yes.
I'd be curious.
Yeah.
Not always.
They don't have enough data from what I know.
I'm just curious to know if, if it doesn't thrive below, minus 20, then everybody just moved to fucking Alaska and Northwest Territories for a little bit.
Just freeze the earth, actually.
Maybe this is just the start of the next cycle of some sort of crazy global event in terms of weather.
Yeah.
I mean, we've already had more epic storms and stuff lately too, right? Not trying to go down the conspiracy theory
for real, right?
episode here, but anyways.
It's good. It's good. I like it. All right. I think right before before the podcast we started recording, we were just gonna see if we wanted to talk about anything, and then we said, "Oh no, let's get started." And then we stopped for a second, and then we just started talking. I forget the first few topics, but we were ending off kind of Florida, and how rumors are going around that you've said that they possibly could be blowing up the core there in Florida,
or at least making some sort of
drastic
change. more than tinkering changes. So consider whatever above that would be. Top 2 lines, top 4 defense. Let's say that. And it's not Bobrovsky, so let's not say goalie.
That was going to be my other question. Could it be Bobrovsky?
No. There's not another contract you can swap out there that another team is willing to give back. Who else has a 5
Louis.
plus year, $10 million deal?
Oh, is it 10 million?
It's 10 million for 7 years. So that's what, I don't know if you heard this or not, but apparently at some point during the season, Florida management came down to Talon. It's Talon that's in Florida, right? Del
The
Talon
yeah. No,
came
it's
down to
no,
him
no,
and
no. It's the Blackhawks dude.
yeah, Dale Talon. No,
Joel. I thought it was Joel Quinn.
no, the GM, not the coach.
Oh, okay, yeah, yeah,
I think it's Del Talon.
yeah, yeah. It is.
Um, now I forget what I was gonna say.
He came down. Dale Talon came down, and he was gonna say something to
Oh
someone.
yeah, no, management came down to Dale Talon and basically said, okay, for next year, the allowable cap that you can spend or the money you can spend on your roster is exactly what we gave you last year, which is X number minus X number, which is exactly Bobrovsky's cap. So it's like 10 point whatever. So they basically came down and said, oh, that's cool. You have full control still, but you have now $10 million less because you wasted it on a goalie.
That makes
I
sense.
think that Dale Talon's gone in the summer.
Yeah, really.
If not because of whatever, because he'll go to them and be like, you're giving me that 10 million or you're not giving me full right to run this team and we should go our separate ways if that's the case. You can't, a guy like that can't run in a situation where people are breathing
I don't
down
really
his
know
back.
Dale Talon's history.
He built Chicago.
Oh, okay. Is that why
That's why he got the Florida job.
Joe Quenneville?
Yep, that's why he came from Chicago. Yep. So he's got history there. So I mean, I shouldn't say he built Chicago, but he put the finishing touches on Chicago.
Yeah, the
So
draft built Chicago. Let's be real.
exactly. But with Florida, I mean, if you consider that and you want to talk about breaking up a core piece, we jumped on Ekblad because that's the most obvious piece and that's who everybody suggests is to be the piece. You got to think Barkov's safe, right? You're not trading Barkov. You're not getting anything back that's better than Barkov, right?
Yeah, I guess it depends. Are you trying to make the playoffs next year? I guess so, right?
I would assume so. If this management group's come in and said you
I
can
don't know.
spend to the cap,
I
but
don't
I
think
would
they trade
assume.
Hoffman either.
Well, he's a free agent,
Yeah.
I
Oh, is he?
believe. I believe. I might be wrong on
I
that,
thought
but
they
I believe
signed him
he
when
is.
he came there.
I don't think
I'm
so.
looking at.
Okay.
Yeah, you're right. Free agent.
So if he walks, which he may, I think he's going to Buffalo. Um, I Buffalo's going to be waving around money this year. It's going to be whoever wants to take the ticket to go to Buffalo. But anyways, with Florida, I don't think Barkov's going anywhere. Hoffman might leave. So who are you left with? It's not Bobrovsky. So you're looking at Ekblad.
Mm,
I can't even think off the top of my head who else would be a big piece there. They already moved Trocheck.
the Curie guy.
Who?
Acurelli.
Achari?
Achari.
Noel Achari?
Might bring back something though.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Isn't he still like, 22 goals and like 4 assists?
probably. Yeah.
Cy Young numbers. I think I heard Koliakovo on the radio call. It's probably been said before that, but it clicked in my head when he said that. He's like, oh, yeah, it's a Cy Young player. I'm like, wrong sport, buddy. And then he's like, oh, yeah, he's 20-2 or whatever. I was like, now it makes sense.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I think that Florida could end up moving Ekblad, which would be interesting. You got to think he'd go out of the East. But I don't know. I don't know what Florida does.
I don't know.
It should be interesting to see.
They definitely have. They've been in this exact same position, one out, for 3 straight years.
Yep. They haven't taken a step yet. They've tried to add and tried to add and tried to add.
But they haven't gone down to get the draft. And
That's the thing is, like, to me, you have to build towards one under the other. You can't be a middle team, and that's what's wrong with the Canadians. Like, they're never going to be bad enough unless they get lucky in a lotto. They're never really going to be bad enough to get a top pick, and they're never good enough. So unless they get lucky in the draft and get elite players at the second tier, I don't think they'll be ever able to compete with the teams that have these elite scorers
No, I
because
agree.
Price isn't the superstar solver of all problems anymore. So, which is also an albatross for them.
Yeah.
But even that, like Florida, when I was saying no one would trade Bobrovsky, the only person with a similar contract, kind of similar position, obviously, is Price. Would you ever make that trade? Absolutely not. If you're Florida, you do. If you're Montreal, you don't. So
Yeah.
like Bobrovsky's locked in there. They're lucky they have Dredger and Montembeau, two cheaper guys that they can pair with them at least for the time being. But yeah, could be interesting. But another thing I was reading the other day that I'm interested to get your take on. I don't know if you've looked much at expansion yet.
No, not really.
No?
No.
Okay. So this specific article is basically saying about how Philly is going to get hit hard.
I can see
Um,
that.
be-
They're very deep.
yeah, the person that they listed as the most likely person to lose or possible to lose would be Nolan Patrick.
That's what I was gonna guess.
And like after 2 years of having all these injuries, imagine this talented player just being stolen off your team and bye bye. Just as they're getting going with these older guys, hitting their
They're
just before the downfall, the
Yep.
Voraceks and the Giroux. So like it could be a really bad timing for them. So like a guy like that, for example, let's say you find another team that goes to Philly and says, "Hey, we'll give you these other assets, or we'll give you a first and a top prospect for Patrick." In any other condition, you'd be like, "No, like why would Philly ever do that?" But
That
because they're trying to get ahead of expansion, maybe that happens. So like what I'm going to do this offseason once because there's still a lot of stuff to go around. I might actually even do it after free agency and stuff. I'm going to make a list of all. Actually, I kind of want to do it before to um, predict some potential trades, but basically find out, make a list of like those fringe unprotected players and see, what guys could be traded where to try and make a couple calls, be like, oh, this might happen or that might happen. And people be like, oh, you're crazy. And then all of a sudden, bang, it happens. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm the guy on the sidelines being like, "Yo, this guy's crazy."
Then all of a sudden I'll call something and be like, all right. But it'll be interesting because like the Leafs have some tough decisions because if they have Campbell and if they resign Freddie, they'll have to not protect one of them.
Yeah, but
Um,
Campbell contract ends when that one ends.
no, he's got a 2-year extension.
Oh yeah, true.
LA signed him a 2 years, so he's got this year plus two more full years
So when's Freddie's contract up?
after next season.
Maybe Freddie's gone.
My personal way of doing business is I would say, hey, Freddie, let's negotiate a contract, but instead of signing it, handshake agreement, and we'll go through expansion. If they take you, whatever they take you, you wait till July 1st, you come back, sign back in Toronto. But if we sign you, now we have to expose Campbell. Just wait from the end of the season, a week or two till expansion draft goes
That
through,
sounds
and
illegal.
then sign the extension. No, it's not.
No.
No, because
Okay.
Seattle could technically still draft him and try and negotiate with him before he becomes free agent. He could say, "Fine, you know what? Leafs didn't protect him. I'm going to try and take him and try and negotiate with him." Freddie could say nothing and then just say, "I'm going to Toronto, back to Toronto," and Seattle could have wasted a pick. I
Yeah.
doubt that happens, but that's theoretically legal and entirely possible.
Okay. Yeah, I feel like if the Leafs leave him exposed, they're not gonna take him. It's kind of a
Why
waste.
would you? Right?
Yeah, exactly.
So like
That's a good
that's one
point.
way to solve the goalie problem. Right there, goalies. And like you have to have a goalie exposed that has played so many games and whatever, which the Leafs are going to lose Kaskasuo and they've already traded Hutchison. So they've got these younger goalies, so they don't have anybody else who they actually can expose to qualify for exposing. Thus, if they didn't have him, they could maybe have to, if they go to a trade market in the offseason being like, look, like, I need to trade for your fourth string goalie who's played 100, whatever the qualifying thing is, games, just because I need to expose him in a draft. Teams will be like, oh, great, his value's worth like a 6th rounder. Give us a 2nd rounder because we know you're screwed. So then teams will have to like give up a
Yeah.
huge asset. So right there, Leafs goalies done. I just solved done in my head. That's how you do it. with no, I mean, it is a bit of shenanigans, but like not really. It's pretty straightforward shenanigans. But
It's
then you move to
straightforward only
defense.
for the Leafs, but that's okay.
I mean, Seattle could
Hey, the
theoretically
Yankees did
still
it,
pay
right?
Freddie.
The Yankees
What's
did it.
that? Yeah. So, I mean, who knows, right? So, I mean, then you move to defense. You got Muzzin, Riley, Dermott, potentially Sandin, depending if they count AHL games as professional games or if they count them as full games. So you could have to protect 3 of those 4. So what do? I do the exact same. Well, sorry, never mind. I forgot Muzzin resigned. I was going to do the exact same thing with Freddie as I would with Muzzin. But since he signed, now you have Muzzin, Riley, and you have to pick between Dermott and Sandin. So obviously you pick Sandin, so that means maybe this offseason Leafs trade Dermott. But if they also go out and sign a guy like there's a lot of talk of Pietrangelo, let's say. I don't know if it'll happen, but let's just speculate that Pietrangelo signs in Toronto. Now you got Pietrangelo, Muzzin, Riley, and now you're exposing both of Dermott and Sandin.
Mm-hmm.
So now you got tougher questions. So like,
does Seattle only get 1 player from each team, right?
Yes.
Unless something's negotiated, probably.
Yes. Unless there's a trade or something, yes. So, like, you could just say, whatever, we're going to lose Sandin or Dermott, you lose him and you move on. You probably lose Sandin if you leave. But if he doesn't count, then maybe you just say, whatever. Or maybe you then now sign Freddie to try and expose Campbell, to try and make Campbell more attractive than Dermott. Because you can go replace Campbell easier, theoretically, than a young, potentially good defenseman on a cheap contract. So, like, maybe you circle back and do something different at that point. You know what I mean? So, like, there's a lot of balls in the air, and it's interesting to see what teams will potentially expose what players. But I think there's a lot of talk about how teams made so many mistakes in the last one and how much of a good job Vegas did in manipulating and taking advantage of people panicking.
Yeah, they almost won a cup off it.
Exactly. And like, people now learn, right?
Yep.
So I think the second time around, if somebody basically tries to mimic that, they're going to fail miserably.
Oh yeah,
So
Seattle won't try to mimic that though. I don't think.
They don't. No, I think what they should just send out this time is just be like, we're taking the best player available. Figure it out. And then at that point, other teams now will make the trade a year beforehand or before the trade deadline to make sure they lose a lesser player.
How much time?
And then we'll just try and deal with it next year.
How much time lapses between the protections and when the draft actually happens?
Sorry, rephrase that question.
So you know how you protect a player, like the Leafs protect players. So how they have to hand in their list of players they're protecting, right? Is there a big time before we know that?
There is a deadline that will be announced.
And they tell us all, right?
We will know the team. We will know at one point earlier that the lists are in.
Yeah.
And then closer to, we'll probably find out the details of the list. Maybe we don't until afterwards.
Okay, we might not find out till. Okay.
We might not.
Okay.
I'm sure we will find out eventually.
Yeah, definitely.
But it may not be fully confirmed until it's all settled. Maybe. Gotcha. We'll see. Or there might be some teams that do it some ways and some that do other ways, depending. But it's really intriguing for me just because those names like the Nolan Patricks or like, I mean, it's not the best example here for Buffalo, but like they have Ristolainen, Dahlin, and Montour, and who's their other younger defenseman they have? I can't think of his right now. But you have to pick 3, because that's the thing is if you protect 3 defensemen, you can protect 3 defensemen and 7 forwards, thus 10 players. Or 10 skaters, sorry.
Yeah.
Or you can protect 8 skaters. So if you want to protect an extra defenseman, you lose an extra forward. Thus, forwards are cheaper to keep than defensemen.
Okay.
So, I mean, if you have strong defense, maybe you're like, fuck it, we'll lose, or we'll be able to protect one less player. What's that?
I think you need to be 5 deep, though, don't you?
Pretty much. Yeah. You would think. I mean, if you're that deep and you're losing your 5th defenseman, I'm sure you can replace him with a more adequate and adequately paid 5th defenseman and probably close a hole somewhere else on your team just as easy.
Yeah.
Without losing stride. And like, it will be interesting to me to see if there's any like flip trades. So for example, me, you, and Party X agree that I can't protect my 4th defenseman. So I'm going to trade him to you so you can protect him. Then you can trade him to the other team afterwards, and then we can trade picks around. or be like
I
trade
think there's
you
going
to
to be
him.
all that kind of stuff going down, all the shenanigans.
Maybe because you have to when you trade a player, they have to stay on the team until the following. What is it? No, if you sign a contract, I don't remember the
Someone pull out the
technicalities.
CBA.
Yeah, I know, right? These are the things where I wish I knew the actual technicalities, but yeah, should be interesting because I wonder if you could be like, okay, I'll trade you my fourth defenseman that I can't protect because you have an extra D spot and you have an extra forward. So let's just swap these players, protect them through expansion, lose whoever, and then afterwards we swap them back. If you have to have a timeline, like saying they have to be on your team for 6 months or until January 1st, 21 or sorry, 22 or whatever the rule may be, well, then maybe you get a third team involved and that third team gets, a fourth rounder for being the middleman to swap them back. Be interesting to see, the different things like that might come out here. I think that's where we're going to see the gameplay, let's call it, or like the work that the managers put in, I think is going to be between this offseason and the offseason / the expansion draft for sorting their team out. And like they're either going to make the decision, don't care, we'll lose who we lose. They'll make the decision, these guys are not the worst, but we'll lose one of these two guys and we'll just move on. Or we really don't want to lose any of these guys. Let's find another team we match up with and swap an asset.
Yeah,
A D for a forward or something.
When do you think this is all going to start going down? June?
As soon as this offseason starts, yeah.
Like right away for all next year.
Yeah, I think that there were some probably a lot of groundwork that was delayed or put down.
At the GM meetings, yeah.
Because it would be like, or even at the deadline, being like, oh, I really like this guy. Yeah, I don't want to trade him, but I know an expansion I have to. So like, I want to compete this year and see what happens at the start of next year. If not, we'll circle back around next year at the deadline. Or if it's a bigger cap maneuver, maybe you're like, I can't do it midseason. We have to do it in the offseason, shuffle around, and then figure out your cap problems after that if one team takes on more cap or whatever.
Yeah, it makes sense.
So it should be I think it's going to be a very, very interesting offseason. And I think something that supports that is the fact that this trade deadline was one of the most active deadlines in recent past. Because all these teams are like, these are the minor little assets we can move around. And then this year will be like the kind of secondary assets. And then starting next year, if not already done, will be the primary assets they need to figure out.
Yeah, because when Vegas was coming to the league, teams weren't making moves this early to them coming in. So
you also got to remember, GMs are stubborn, and they're like, "Oh, we'll figure it out." Right? They didn't put much work into it. Let's be real.
No, hell no. But they're gonna have to put more in this time if they're the ones that got robbed.
They don't want to look like fools, and if they were already made look like fools in the other one, they don't want to be made look like fools again. Or even furthermore, they want to try and show that they win this time in some theoretical deal, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's you're going to see a lot of people, which that's always obviously what I like is where you might like player X so much, and I'm like, I don't really like him.
Yeah.
And I like where you see those types of trades, like even, for example, the Zibanejad trade from Ottawa to Rangers. I believe it was Derek Brassard and a pick for Zibanejad, or it was Brassard and a lower pick for Zibanejad.
Something like that, yeah.
A higher pick for Zibanejad and a lower pick. So Rangers came out like gangbusters out of that one.
I don't know what it is. Those forwards in New York just seem to be pumping out there lately.
It's because they've always played a game where they get the puck to the net. I mean, quite honestly, you don't have to be that skilled to get to the puck and to bang the puck in. So like you can be a 18, 20 goal scorer in that kind of environment fairly easily.
Yeah.
But to be, a 30, 40, 50 goal scorer, that's obviously where you need that layer of skill. So, should be interesting.
Do you want to get to the standings then?
Yeah, it's usually my favorite part.
It gives us a chance to touch on a lot of the teams. If your team's not had a good season, then we're likely not going to talk about you.
Yeah. Sorry, I forgot to pull the standings up. I've got to do that now.
There's at least one or two teams that I've been doing some things that I'd like to talk about down there, but we'll get to that. What side do you want to start on?
Let's go west.
West Coast, best coast? All right.
I don't know if the coronavirus agrees with that statement.
Why do you think it's here first?
No comment.
All right.
Western standings.
Western standings. So I'm going to put the standings up on the screen here just so that...
Central, we same three teams, right?
Yeah.
What's your order?
My order is gonna be the way it is right now.
You come around to St. Louis winning it, eh?
Yeah, with McKinnon out for 1 to 2 weeks now,
Mm-hmm.
uh, and the goalies.
And Tarasenko coming back shortly.
Yeah, exactly.
That's big. Yeah.
Dallas, I don't think they're gonna blow it. It's potential though. Their past 3 games have been complete duds.
Yeah.
Complete duds. So I don't know. It's 3 games though. They've had rougher stretches this season, so I expect them to
Oh
come out of it.
wow. Nashville and Winnipeg are only 4 points back, eh?
Yeah, that's. I think,
And Minnesota's only 5 points back.
dude. I'm excited. This is why they can't cancel hockey, Tori. Because this race down the stretch is going to be great on both conferences.
Yeah. You got to think Dallas is going to pull it up. They've been missing Radulov, and
Yeah.
I don't know what's wrong with them. Why they just can't click. But
Bishop's just had a handful of bad games. I just think it's variance. Like hockey's a ton of it, and
yeah,
like I said, three losses. It's only looking as dangerous as it is because the other teams also have winning streaks or like 7-3 in their last 10. So
that's true, and they haven't been so hot. So yeah, I guess that's true. I'm not too worried. Those 3 teams, and I agree: St. Louis, Colorado, Dallas.
All right.
So Pacific, we agree. Vegas won.
Yes, definitely after they won this week against Edmonton.
Yeah, Edmonton too.
Yes.
To me, those are pretty much all locks at this point.
Yeah, I've come around on Calgary. I just don't think the other Pacific teams are good enough to catch them.
I don't think so either.
But as tradition, now that I'm picking them, it's time for them to start losing. So
yeah, we'll see. Well, I'm picking them, so we'll see if they win or lose, and see who they like or dislike more between me and you.
They always do the opposite of what I've been saying all season.
I know they usually do the opposite of what I say too. So we'll figure out who they hate more. So then we go to the wild card. What are your 2 teams?
I've been thinking about this today and yesterday, how I was going to pick here. For me, Nashville is the best of the 4 that are left.
Who's the worst of the 4?
The worst of the 4 is probably Minnesota. They're gonna they're relying a lot on Stalock right now to be great.
Yeah.
They don't have the lines that Winnipeg has. Vancouver, they just lost Chris Tanev last night. We're not sure how that's going to impact. They've really struggled while they were on the road, like 4-5-1. While all these other teams are winning, this is why they're right in the thick of it now.
Yeah,
they had a ton of games in hand, and they kind of just shredded them all up. Not even stealing a point or any of that along the way. So
yeah.
That's why tough. They're here. I'm going to give the second wild card spot to Connor Hellebuck and the Winnipeg Jets.
Yeah, that's the best way to put it. I really wanted to see all the Canadian teams in, so I was really rooting for it, but I think one of Vancouver Winnipeg makes it. Yeah. And I think I have to agree with you. Just Vancouver doesn't seem to be drinking the right liquid right now, and they don't seem to be moving at the right time that they need to be when all the other teams are. So I think that they're just kind of continue to be left behind. I think they'll stay ahead of Mini, but I think so they'll be the first team looking at in from out when the dust settles. Only thing that will change that is if Hellebuck gets hurt or
Markstrom comes back and continue. And
yes,
and then it's a dogfight.
I was forgetting. Yeah, if Markstrom comes back, then then it's
close.
It's a toss up. Yeah. 9 out of 10 times it will be a different team that makes it.
Yeah,
but yeah, or something.
And it breaks my heart. I have to throw this in there. I didn't even mention the Coyotes.
Yeah,
breaks my heart.
They're done. They done. They done. And I hate to say it, but a team that has to rely on their young assets and picks just pooched this one.
Yeah.
And I think it majorly compromised what they could maybe be moving forward. Like, I think that they had the capability before, because they were young and had all these picks or whatever, to continue to build something that could maybe become something really good and young and signed together for term.
Mm-hmm.
Similar-ish to Vegas, kind of where it was like a bunch of people that people wrote off who played well. And
Yeah.
then you add all these other young guys around that. I thought they had real good potential.
Their goalie
Now
situation
I
just
don't
killed them.
see it.
They killed them this
Yeah.
year. They were relying on AHL goalies for half the season.
Yeah.
Their number one was out even longer. Like,
that's true. But they don't have those guys coming up anymore. Like, yeah, they have their Haytons, and yeah, they have a couple other young guys,
yeah,
but
they
like,
traded away a lot for Hall, so
who's gonna walk?
Who's gonna walk?
Like,
And
yeah.
So
they just burn those assets away.
there
They
might
burn
be
4 or
some
5
tough
major
times
assets.
ahead for Arizona here. Love you
Yeah.
guys and all, but
Yeah, and well, speaking of Arizona, what we should really touch on that we haven't touched on in a while, I think I brought it up a while ago, but these penalties and fees that they're
oh yeah.
potentially facing for illegally testing. I think it was OHL, but it might have been more prospects. And what they're doing is they're basically fitness testing them, which is strictly forbidden in the CBA.
Yeah.
And I forget what.
So-
do you remember the monetary amount I said?
They're fine.
Off the top of it. Yeah.
No, I do
pick.
not. But
I
what was
wanna
in it for
say
the
it's-
kids to do this? That's the part I didn't understand.
What's that?
Why were the kids agreeing to this?
Well, isn't that the question? What would make you fly to
Money,
wherever and test?
Pay me.
Money, sponsors, a free car,
Yeah, fair enough.
something, right? You're not a promise for,
Does that
being
not hurt?
drafted. I don't know.
Does that not hurt the player themselves, or
Maybe, but the real question is, if you're not really getting anything, you're not going, right? So clearly something weird is going on there.
fair enough?
That's what that solidifies. And like, I want to say it's upwards of 4 million. It might be 2 million or 3
Big
million
fine though. Yeah.
per incident. And
Yes.
apparently there could be in the teens, if not more, incidents. So there could be 12, 14, 16, 18, 20 incidents, each per X million. So let's just say it's 15 incidences at $1 million per.
There's gonna be a lot of people fired
Arizona.
from that.
Oh, for sure. And there's going to be like people who are, marked as, never coming back into the league and stuff like that. Like, if Arizona pooched this, burned up these assets, Hall leaves, and then they have to pay $15 million on a team that doesn't spend to the cap, that can't afford this shit, they done. They'll go right back to where they were for years.
Yep.
Like,
Breaks
it's
my heart.
really bad. It looks really bad for Arizona. There's some people said that Chayka might lose his job, which
Who?
John Chayka, the GM, the young
Oh,
GM.
he should.
I think he should. I mean, if you compare him to what Dubas has done, everybody wants to fire Dubas. Compare him to Chayka. They're both the two up-and-coming young stud, prodigy
Yeah,
GMs.
but this kind of thing, if he had any knowledge whatsoever of this, he's done.
Yeah. Which he might have been like to a scouting staff, find me the best players by whatever you need to do, like legally or whatever, and then somebody else might have gone below the belt
Yeah.
at that point. But
Yeah.
I agree, if he has anything to do with it, he's done and gone. But it'd be interesting to see what happens with Arizona. I think that there's a big dark cloud moving over them.
Mm-hmm.
I think that they're potentially doomed for a while, but less doom and gloom. Let's go back to the Eastern Conference.
One more team I want to hit on it.
Okay.
I want to hit on the Kings.
Why the Kings?
They've won 6 straight.
Yeah.
Are they ruining their draft lottery?
The lottery, who cares?
No?
I don't think it really matters.
All right.
You think that they're passing Anaheim?
I think they're passing Eastern Conference teams.
Let me take a look.
Ottawa. Like they were in second last.
Okay, well, again, so they may pass Ottawa, or they may be above Ottawa and San Jose when the dust settles, but there's no way they're going higher.
Yeah, but isn't that a big difference? I thought top 3 is like where you want to be.
Well, yeah, obviously you want to be as high as you can, but like
You don't
I
think
don't know.
there's a big difference between 4 and 6? You don't
I
think
think
they
we're
should be
gonna.
tanking this shit?
Only thing
Uh,
I can say is go to the draft lottery and press simulate a bunch of times and see how many different combinations you get,
okay,
and
maybe I will do
you'll
that.
understand what I mean. Like
Doesn't matter as much as I
you
probably
could press
think.
it 100 times and it's going to be you're going to have some sort of different combination the majority of the time. Like I know that's not probability possible, but you know
It
what I mean.
probably is possible, actually.
Is it? Maybe
More than 100? It's probably more than 1,000.
four different combinations, or I guess three or four different combinations. Yeah, I
Oh, in the
guess
top three, you mean?
top three or four. Yeah,
Okay,
because it's
maybe.
only the top. Technically, it's only the top six that could move, right? If three non-top three teams win the lottery, it pushes the top three down to four, five, six, right?
Okay, yeah, fair enough.
So
Yeah.
it can only be the top six. But in all likelihood, one team will win a lottery pick somewhere. So it will probably be top one or two. Something just tells me
River
Ottawa's going to
Hall will
win the
be
lottery.
Arizona, right?
Yeah, I see Lafreniere in a Senators jersey. I don't know what it is,
Yeah. All right, we're
but
moving to the East.
yeah, cool. What's oh shit?
What's cooking in the Metro?
Yeah, what's going on in the Metro? Metro seems to be moving all over the place.
It's a tight race. They're all at the good old 69 games played. And
And all
then
the Atlantics are 70. That's funny.
yeah, and then Pittsburgh's 4 points back. Philly's 1 point back of Washington.
So what's
Philly
your order?
for me. I'm going Philly, Washington, Pittsburgh. I can already say yours for you in Washington, Philly, Pittsburgh, because you see Philly and Pittsburgh meeting up in the first round.
Yes. Yes. I like I've always said, don't know who's 2-3 or 3-2. But yes.
And then there's me picking Philly first
Yes.
because I put $12 on them to win the division like a month ago at 8-1. So
Nice.
that's why I'm doing that for good karma.
There we go. So I
Atlantic.
mean, yeah.
I don't
Nobody's
know. Do you
stealing
want
your
to talk?
spots
Is
out
there
there.
something else to say of those top three? They both
No.
seem to be winning at like the same similar pace. And I'm sure
Sorry, in the Atlantic, or
and
we
the Metro.
just summarize
Sorry.
the Metro? Yeah. Yeah, I don't think there's anything changing in the Metro. I think it's kind of
Yeah.
those three teams are clearly the teams of that conference or division, sorry. And then in the Atlantic, clearly Boston.
Yep. I think it's over. I think I said last week it was over too. So
Yeah.
I think we're gonna be saying Boston the rest of the year.
Yeah. I still can't believe I made that bet with Nick. That's one of my worst bets I've ever made.
What was your side? The
I made
Leafs?
a bet before the start of the season that the Bruins would miss the playoffs.
Oh, wow. Just 1-1, eh?
Yeah. I believe yeah, I think it was
I
1-1.
can't
I mean,
believe it. I
we
don't know.
only bet tall boys, so it's not like I
He even
I
doubled
lost.
down and drafted Rask really fast.
Yeah, he did. Yeah. But that bit him because Halak split duties. But
Yeah,
Tampa's probably second, right? Clearly second, I guess.
clearly second. And
Unless they
at
go
this
on
point,
another 15 game
I kind of
tear.
have the Leafs taking this third spot. I think
You think so?
they're just gonna play well down the stretch enough to get it.
Yeah. I mean, they're getting healthy at the right time. They're getting
They're
Riley back. They're
starting to
getting
reach
Muzzey back
somewhat of a
shortly.
better stride as a team. It looks like. And
Yeah.
what a better time than right now.
That's the thing is like, there's always that team that comes in late that is the team you don't want to play. There's
Yeah,
also that team that comes in late that's unhealthy that just can't get their shit together and
yeah.
doesn't put up a fight. So like I'm sure it'll be somewhere in between that, or maybe period to period you're gonna get
Well,
some
it's
of
kind
each.
of Tampa.
But
Like Leafs have taken two from Tampa now, like in like the past month,
and you know what I've
and
noticed in the
that's who
games?
they're
Have you
looking to
watched
play.
the Tampa Toronto games?
I've watched them, yeah, most of them, most of it.
I find that the Tampa players get irritated with Toronto. Like they're one of the only teams that comes in and seems to like get irritated with them and like start punching them back and like pushing people around. It's not like they're targeting the players where they're initiating it.
Yeah,
It's almost like nothing's really happened. And then like I saw Killorn punch Tavares in the face. Like there's a bunch of hacks after the whistle. Like
You
It just
wonder,
seemed
was there something that happened this season, early in the season, or you never know.
maybe,
I
or maybe
forget.
the young kids chirped them about being swept last year or something, and it just who knows, right? Like,
Yeah,
who do you kids think you are? And like just that attitude, right? That kind of attitude goes game to game, right? Being like,
yeah.
oh yeah,
In a
remember when
playoff
those
series.
young kids called us whatever, and then each time you play, it's like a new spark, right? So like
Yeah.
maybe it's something like that. I don't know. It just seems that like
Okay.
we play all these other
You
teams
see
and they're in the
more
same
Leafs
way.
games than I do, so
So like I don't see it very often, but the handful of times I've seen it over the season, twice has been Tampa. So it's just kind of maybe it's just coincidence, but I feel like they irritate the Lightning players, which is a good thing, especially if you're going to meet in the playoffs.
yeah.
If you're on the good end of irritating somebody, you're gonna win most of that time, especially in the playoffs. Like taking people off their game. You take Kucherov off his game. Columbus did it last year. That was part of why they won. I mean, Hedman seems to be a little bit
Yeah, Columbus was
nicked up
actually
right now.
also pretty stacked last year from the trade deadline.
Hmm. But I'm glad to see that you say Toronto because I don't know. They are the most talented team, but I just don't know if they're gonna get
That's
their
why
heads
I'm
on
giving.
right.
Dude, it's possible. What is there? 12 games left.
Hmm.
Imagine 12 games. It's possible. Matthews gets 10 more goals.
I hope he does. I
Is he
really
not
want him
like
to
the
break that record.
heart candidate at that point? 58 goals.
It
He'll.
depends because if he gets that many goals, it probably means the Leafs win like 9 of those 12 games, right?
Yeah,
Which
but let's say
puts
that
them clearly in the playoffs.
the voting happens after the playoffs, or does it happen during I forget.
I believe it happens during the playoffs or after the playoffs, but they don't count the playoffs in their vote or whatever.
Oh, okay.
But I think it's like once the playoffs start,
Because
they have
there
to
is
put the
a
votes
separate
in.
trophy for MVP of the playoffs, is there not? Yeah,
Yes,
okay.
yes,
I don't know
yeah.
what it's called. Don't. I'm a noob that way.
Conn Smythe, I think. Pretty sure it's Conn Smythe. I'm not very good with trophies either, but yeah.
So wild card. I don't know. To me, last last week was the first time you ever gave the Islanders any credit, and it made no
Hmm.
sense because you came out after hating on them all season and then picked them, and now they're even worse.
Which is funny because I don't know why I picked them because I know that since some stupid stat, like in their last like
Yeah,
30 games, they're 500 or something like that.
yeah.
Like
I
since
think
when they came up to that tear at the beginning of the season, when they were like some ridiculous stats, since the end of that tear, they're 500. So it's like 30 or
yeah.
40,
It's a lot
45
of
games.
games, and it's
Yeah,
starting to show very badly.
people know them. They're a one trick pony. I mean, as much as people say they aren't, they are, and people
Well,
figured them out.
to quote you in an early episode of the podcast, they are the Phoenix Coyotes of the East.
Touche.
So the fact the Coyotes are crashing, they're crashing, makes a lot of sense.
They're forever going to be attached. As much as I really want to have the Rangers in the playoffs. Like
I do.
I used to hate the Rangers with a passion and be like out of the playoffs whenever possible.
Yeah,
But that's changed and like
I
they're an
like them.
iconic
Yeah,
franchise and like
agreed.
I would just like to see that team in the playoffs. Like
Agreed.
I don't care what they
They have
do,
a lot
but
of
like
good players to watch too.
yeah, and I would take them over the other teams. I mean, Carolina was amazing last year because they had that magical kind of run, right? Which made you pay attention, but like they just
Yeah,
don't really seem to have the same kind of magic. Obviously, they're missing some guys, mainly Dougie Hamilton. But like if they had Dougie Hamilton, they're probably what like
couple wins.
close to Pittsburgh and Philly, just below, probably 85
Could be
points.
like fighting with Pittsburgh. Yeah,
So I mean, they'd probably be clearly wild card one, right?
they just smashed Pittsburgh this past weekend.
Hmm.
There is a
But they just
lot.
got Mrazek back, so that's
Yeah, there
helpful.
is some quite a few interdivisional games down the stretch here.
Hmm.
So it's feasible. I don't know the schedule if Carolina plays Pittsburgh two more times. Like they
Do they?
could. I don't know, but if
Oh,
they
okay.
do, uh, I just know it's possible because the Canucks play the Coyotes three more times,
Yeah.
and it's like the same amount of time. So if they play them two more times, they could potentially close that gap. Pittsburgh
Yeah.
had a bad run there, but they're back home, so I expect them to keep it apart. my second team, I think I'm with you. Like, I want it to be Rangers really bad, but the more I've watched them lately, I just think Columbus
Yeah.
is going to get there.
They just work hard.
They
They're
are,
hard to
and
beat.
I
They work
think
hard.
it should be like some management or coach or award should be at least
Yeah.
nominated out of there.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. Yep. I think Tortorella should definitely be nominated because that's, yeah, everyone expected them to be at the bottom of the barrel. And for them even to be in the race and to be where they
Very,
are, I think it's outstanding.
very similar to how
With the
Winnipeg was at
injuries.
the beginning too. Like
Yes.
everyone
Yeah.
was like, "You're out," but
Yeah.
so.
So I agree. I think it's going to be Carolina and Columbus. I think the Islanders will fall out. I think the Rangers just had some bad timing for some injuries. The only way they get in is if Shesterkin just goes
Yeah,
crazy.
they just had such a big gap to close,
Mm-hmm.
and
But
like
even with
they
Kreider being lost, and I don't know, they
they
just
have they only have 13 games, so they kind of have to go like 10-3.
yeah, basically.
Yeah, so
Yeah, which I don't see them doing, unfortunately.
very hard.
Zibanejad's been hot as hell right now, right?
He
So you
has
got to
been.
think he's going to cool down a little bit. He's not going to run at this pace for the rest of the season, you don't think? So
Well, if the Rangers make the playoffs, it'll be on his back.
yeah,
And Shesterkin. Yeah,
and Panarin, yeah,
yeah.
the three of them, yeah, 100%. Florida's they're not getting in the playoffs unless they steal a spot from Toronto. They're not taking a wild card spot. Montreal's gone. That's where the bar gets cut off,
Yeah.
for sure. But yeah, so I guess we're kind of getting some clarity. We're kind of starting to agree on a lot of the matchups. It'll be fun. I'm really excited once they actually get sorted to start doing the actual series predictions.
Yeah.
Stuff. That's my favorite.
Oh, we'll get there. It's gonna happen. Just gotta believe.
7-game series. None of this 3 out of 5 bullshit. All right.
Do you want to sign off on this part and switch over to some fantasy clef bombs action?